What kind of relationships do you have? Connections with other people come in a variety of types and with a combination of different reasons behind them. In terms of relationships, we tend to prioritize the ones that can seem the most alluring. Those usually being some kind of romantic relationship, like getting a girlfriend or boyfriend, or an enhanced relationship with yourself. While neither of these are bad, I want to explore reasons behind what kinds of relationships people should prioritize, and see what might be lacking. So I created the relationship web, to break this down into something a bit more digestible. Before you say it, yes, this is directly inspired by Greg's video, which will be in the description below. This graph uses 3 separate categories for types of relationships in one's life. The first is attunement. This can be understood as liking someone for who they are, and their personality or hobbies, and would commonly be associated with friendship. The second is attraction. This can be thought of as liking someone for what they look like or how they treat you, most often associated with romantic relationships. The third is attachment. This can be thought of as liking someone for what they provide to you, whether it's material or emotional, most commonly connected to professional relationships, like with a coworker. And at the center of all these types of connections lies the self. Ultimately, we understand our relationships as extensions of who we are. We're reflections of the people we know, and who we keep around can help us understand ourselves more deeply. That being said, let's expand this by giving more examples. So here we have a variety of types of relationships, with each orbiting the aspect it most often is related to. For example, lover is near attraction, for obvious reasons. Some types also sit in between aspects, so you can view these as combinations of multiple types. Realistically, the relationships you have in real life will be a combination of all 3 parts. This chart is just a simplified version of the idea. Moving on, let's rank each of these relationships, starting first with the overrated portion. These are mostly the ones that have to do with attraction. We heavily prioritize this category and romantic love in general. Don't get me wrong, I would call myself a romantic at heart, but we have this notion that attraction supersedes all other types of relationships. Whether it's an unrequited love of a crush, the passion of a lover, or just a friend with benefits. We can't seem to separate ourselves from thinking romantic love is the most important. Additionally, I've included idol, which takes the place of parasocial relationships one has online, which has become more common. I've also labeled the self as being overrated. As while I am the type of person to promote self-improvement and self-acceptance, there comes a point where one needs to think outside of themselves and towards their community. As shown by this chart, one of the best parts of life is that we don't have to live it alone. Next is the fairly rated types. I feel as though most people prioritize these a healthy amount. We're talking friends, family, your coworkers. You know that these relationships are important, and even if you don't have them, or always get along with the people here, there's still an understanding that these are relationships you should care about. I want to put extra importance on the separation of acquaintance from friends. I think it's healthy knowing the difference. You may know of someone, but not actually know them well enough to call them your friend. Or as you learn more about them, you understand it's probably for the best that the relationship remains superficial. This similarly applies to coworkers, who have a unique relationship with you. You don't have to like, nor do you have to be attracted to your coworkers to have them matter to you. And knowing how to work with anyone is a crucial life skill. The same applies to roommates or peers in a classroom setting. Finally, we get to the underrated category. At the top, we have enemies. It's important in life that you have integrity and that you hold true to what you believe. I'm not talking about a holier-than-thou approach to morality, but there are things that you should be against based off of principle. An easy example is someone who is willing to hurt other people physically while unprovoked. People who are this way are not worth having in your life as they are, and need to show willingness to change and effort in becoming better. And if they don't, you need to stand opposed to what they're doing. Goodness is not just in doing good, but it's also in condemning bad. To the left is non-crush. This is someone you're not attracted to. Imagine you meet someone for the first time and you know nothing about them, except that you're not physically attracted to them. I think it's extremely important that we go against our own bias and recognize that people's physical attraction has nothing to do with their character. An ugly person can be nice, and a pretty person can be mean, or vice versa. This isn't to say you need to date people you're not attracted to, but it's recognizing that sometimes we can discriminate based off looks, even if we're not aware of it. To the right are mentor and pupil. These go hand in hand and are extremely crucial for development. A mentor provides the structure for their pupil. Maybe they're a little older, maybe they're family, or maybe it's a school teacher. Someone who is a mentor can give insight and explain potential pitfalls on someone's path. Speaking to them gives one access to life's most limited resource: time. Imagine how much time you would have saved had you, in the position you're in now, been able to speak to yourself a decade ago. Granted, community can feel difficult to build and can sometimes feel daunting to be guided by someone else when you've already been walking the path by yourself. But there's plenty more to learn in life, and there's plenty more people that you've yet to meet. Pupil is the flip side of this. When you act as a mentor for someone else, you can provide the support that you may not have had yourself. Teachers, in particular, can have such a profound effect on their students, and anecdotally, you can see so many stories of people saying, "This one teacher believed in me, and that's what set me straight." That's all it took. Next is rival. You may initially think this is similar to the idea of enemy, but it's different. A rival is someone who you're working to compete against, whether this be someone of a similar occupation or hobby. They almost act as a mirror of what you could become. Many peers can become rivals unintentionally, or if you notice that you start to improve on yourself, the friends around you may start to do the same thing. A healthy rivalry is not a competition to see who's the best, in most cases, but it's an exploration of seeing how far one can push themselves when given adequate pressure. Lastly, we have strangers. This may seem like a weird one to put in the underrated category, but let me explain my reasoning. Everyone starts as a stranger to you. There are so many people on the planet that you will never truly fathom the number. It's so beyond our mind being able to grasp it. The people you see on the street every day have their own lives they live, they have their own drama, their own baggage, and those little moments you pass by each other are blips in their story. It's so easy to get caught up in our own lives that we forget other people have lives they live too. Isn't it so wonderful that we live in a world where you could potentially meet someone who you could spend the rest of your life talking to, who starts as a stranger? You could meet someone that becomes your kid's future favorite teacher, or maybe you end up meeting someone who becomes incredibly successful, and you saw the work they put in to get there. Every relationship you have matters, and you should live life as though they all do. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.